Move on to the 9/11 radio project update. Thank you.
Apologize for a quick delay. Our consultant, Mike Brown, he has another one of his partners with us today, but he got stuck in traffic on the way up from Virginia. We're just going to pull off and call him.
Does he need to call me behind before you start?
Yeah, because it's not too long. I just have a few slides and then we turn it over to him for the majority of it.
Okay.
And then we'll jump back in. Shows in. Just getting a minute that way. It's not in the middle of sort of. I'm getting it done.
I'm not going to know.
Oh, that's a problem. Oh, maybe.
I didn't put on the phone cord down.
What's that?
Phone jack.
Yeah.
It's just probably been in a way like this now.
Well, it's plugged into there. I think this needs to go into the unit, right? Oh.
Doesn't make sense because all you got there's power. You have a power line in the middle.
All right, that's not a wireless one, I guess. Okay.
So I guess this is pretty happening.
Let's try it out. Okay. Ours is wireless, so it's a little different.
You telling us that you've got better
Yeah.
stuff down there?
Skip that. Rewind, delete.
Theirs are already plugged in.
You better have a good phone system.
It's a longer wire.
It's a longer wire.
What's his name, Brian?
Mike.
Mike. Hello, this is Mike.
Yeah, this is Mike. How are you doing?
Hi, Mike. This is the meeting. Welcome.
Well, let me apologize for not being there in person. The traffic counts are not cooperating very well with me today.
Understood.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Quick introduction, Mike Brown, SSC Consulting on the phone, partner of his, Kevin Desmond here beside me with us today. And we'll just jump into it then. All right, so we'll go over the milestones, talk quickly about our outreach that we've been doing, and then we'll turn it over to Mike and Kevin for the team kickoff, end user assessment, data collection, and some project updates, and then we'll finish it up towards the end with what we're asking of you all. So the project milestones, just to recap and kind of bring everything up to date. So in 2016 in April, we presented the project for concept of approval to the Board of Commissioners. Then in the May-June timeframe, we did field visits to other public safety answering points or 911 centers, to get their lessons learned from their radio projects. In the June timeframe also, we presented the projects to the Municipal Advisory Board, chiefs of police, fire, EMS councils and committees. In October, we received and reviewed the consulting proposals for the vendor selection process. which got us to hiring SSC in December and moving forward then with the current project. As far as the project outreach, I'll let Claudia go over that. She handed out some stuff she can go over.
So one of the lessons that we learned from the other counties that have already implemented radio projects like this is to be transparent with your end users, the public, and of course the Board of Commissioners, so that everyone is informed and educated and a part of the process. So in order to do that, we've decided that one of the methods would be utilizing the county website. The communications team has been working with our team and developing kind of like an interactive page within the Department of Public Safety page. And if you go there right now, you'll see a few of our accomplishments that we've made thus far, some presentations that we've had. They're already there, but Chris is ready to roll out some interactive type of timelines that kind of give the user a good picture of how we got to where we are right now and what's planned. The other piece is what you have printed before you in color is the project information tool. The purpose of this is to have a one-page summary sent out not on a scheduled basis, as needed basis. And it can be sent to all of the end users as well as municipalities, basically anyone that is a public safety partner. And we'll just send out issues, which no more than 1 or 2 pages at a time. That way, at the end of the process, we'll have a collective tool that shows what we've done from beginning to end. And at any point in time, they can reference this on the county website as well. We've also working toward getting confirmations to build a radio project advisory board. An invitation was sent out to have at least 2 representatives from each fire department, representing the fire departments, fire police, EMS, law enforcement, Western COG and CAP COG, and also our Department of Public Safety team. We have all but a few confirmed. Yeah. So that radio project advisory board then will help throughout the entire process, basically being the voices representing those groups.
Can I just interject here very briefly?
Sure.
Great pains are being taken to implement in a tangible fashion the ownership transparency on this project. This is a big project. There's lots of money involved, lots of different stakeholders, lots of pressure from vendors being put on individuals. So we are taking extra great lengths to make sure that this is all holding in low board and everybody is included, nobody's excluded, and that it is what you see is what you're going to get.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, back when we went to the meeting on the regular system, there was a similar advisory group that was assembled. And the reason I remember that is because I believe I served with Borough Council Member Jack in New Cumberland. Jack Murray. Thank you. Jack Murray and myself. The local government representatives on the group. But it's good that what we're doing. I think it's important that we engage all the stakeholders, but also make this a fully public process so that the general public understands why we're doing this and essentially the costs that are involved in this too.
Absolutely. We're also frequently attending the Municipal Advisory Board, External Advisory Board, Chiefs of Police, all of our public safety partners as they ask for or as we feel we have enough information to be put on their agendas to give them updates as well. So that's some of our outreach efforts.
And this is one of the 2 main items on the upcoming meeting.
Yes, May 17th meeting.
Okay, project kickoff. I'll turn it over to Mike if you can hear me. Take it away.
Is he still there? Hello?
Yeah, you turn it over to me, Brian?
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure if you.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Carly.
Are you able to take it, Mike? You want me to walk through this?
That's fine, you walk through, Kevin, I'll go jump in and go along the line.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Fine, so the project team kickoff meeting, the project team kind of set the pace for the project. It was to set expectations and limitations for the project. They developed a project plan for the deliverables, and some of the deliverables that we're talking about are the communications plan, the action item list, meetings, notes, and agendas, risk analysis, and again, going back to what we were just talking about, a document sharing portal as necessary for things to be shared amongst all the stakeholders. And then the other thing, with another important tool, was they developed the end user data collection tool draft, which was the thing that was sent out to all the end users that were basically asking for their feedback, getting their input, all part of the buy-in that we were talking about. So the data collection tool was sent out electronically. It was also placed on a county-wide website for them to fill that out and then get that back. Now, the part of what that tool did was it collected points of contact for future project use. And it was obviously department heads, things like that, but also for the individual jurisdictions, who were the people that were the decision makers as far as money and things like that. So that information was captured. The other things that were captured were critical radio features and encryption needs. And this, again, it's all part of the buy-in that we're talking about. It is not somebody telling them what they need, but what are their needs? What do they feel they need as far as things like encryption or the bells and whistles that come along with some of the radios? Are they important to them? Are they not important to them? What are the things that are important to them? The other thing is it characterized critical coverage areas, both critical in building as well as the current existing system challenges. And, you know, it doesn't come as any great surprise, I think, to a lot of people that one of the things that we got from the end users was, you know, that a lot of places had issues with the current coverage of the current radio system. No big secret there. All right. Just kind of a recap there, the end user assessment data collection, 29 agencies used the form, filled it out, 5 county departments, 10 police departments, 4 EMS, 16 fire, and 1 municipality. That's basically getting that information that we collected. Right? So one of the things we did while that form went out to them, and they had that opportunity to give us that feedback, they were also providing an opportunity for us to basically meet with them and have those discussions. So we had 4 end user meetings held across the county at different locations. We reviewed that data collection tool, the form. We discussed the project timeline, gave them kind of an overview of where they were going with the P25 technology, the difference between P25 and the Open Sky that they're currently using. We were there to answer subscriber questions. So basically, they had questions about their current radios or the future, or what they were looking at for radios in the future with the P25. And of course, collected system coverage priorities. So what are their priorities as far as coverage? And again, the overwhelming voice was they want better coverage. No matter what happens, be the vendors, they want better coverage. On those meetings, we had personnel that attended: 28 fire, 14 law enforcement, 6 EMS, 7 municipality personnel, and 13 people from the county. The Cumberland County hosted a regional discussion. Part of that was reviewing the existing communication systems, discuss possibility for sharing frequency. So obviously we're surrounded by jurisdictions that are have currently recently gone to P25 systems, are in the process of going to P25 systems, different vendors. So it was basically an opportunity for us to see what is around you, what can be shared, things like that to make for us to, as far as planning the future of Cumberland County. Again, we did discuss options for sharing infrastructure, shared encryption ideas and requirements, Encryption obviously is something where a lot of departments want it, but there is downsides to encryption, so those discussions were held with the different shareholders, and sharing mutual timelines for system replacement. All right.
Hey, Jeff, real quick,
Yes.
I can jump in.
Yep.
One of the biggest differences between Open Sky and what will now be 25 is that Open Sky is not something that people can buy a scanner and listen to. So people would have a very difficult time listening to, for instance, police activity, or any activity for that matter, on Open Sky systems, because they just didn't have scanners that would be able to listen to that. Now, when they go to P25, they use a P25 scanner. So any of the information that is sensitive that they may want to encrypt now would have to be encryption would be purchased for that purpose versus having a system that can't be scanned. So it's a little bit different flavor. Same result, only we planned for it, but that was the reason we had so much discussion about that.
Okay, so the project update summary. The county project team identified the expected MLR procurement schedule to be 6 to 8 years for this to happen. All right. Now, the county recognizes that there are existing towers that require replacement, and again, that sort of goes back to the difference between your current system, the Open Sky system, and the P25 system. Open Skies allows you to use things called, cell sites, the small sites, they're telephone pole sites, whatever you want to call them, But you use that, and that's something that's not used in P25 infrastructure. So that's something that needs to take place. You're going to have to basically upgrade current sites that you have, as well as add additional sites to the system. So that was part of it. Additional greenfield sites are required to enhance the current cell site infrastructure that you have. And the current infrastructure work would take approximately 2 years to complete. Okay. Now that's basically looking at if you're adding sites to the system, which would be necessary, right? So this kind of is a breakdown here. So soliciting a vendor through RFP this time would require a 2-year delay while sites are being built. So that's just not even getting into, when you are picking your vendor and going down that road, it's just getting the infrastructure in place to be able to support a P25 system. You're looking at 2 years.
Can I just interject here? This is a key point here today for the commissioners. When this project timeline was originally presented, the notion was we would choose a vendor for the radios ASAP in order to provide what we thought was the top priority to people who choose to know what kind of equipment to buy between now when a piece of equipment is at end of life and the time we eventually move over to the new system. So now we are making a switch. We are saying, hold off on choosing a radio, build the infrastructure first. Our presenters will give us a lot of reasons that are substantive to warrant doing such. But the key assumption under this is that whether you have Motorola, whether you have Harris or whatever, we're going to work on the infrastructure that we built. Okay? So I'll turn it back over to you guys to give you advantages, but this is the big change, and we need the commissioner's blessing on this modification of approach.
And along those lines, and I won't steal Mike's thunder because it's his analogy that he uses, which is a great analogy, as far as, purchasing at this point, when you're looking at 2 years to build out infrastructure. And needing that, you get into it now and you get at a point now where you say, okay, well, this is the terminal equipment that you're going to need to buy, and you're going to start buying it now. We're making that decision now to purchase the equipment. Go ahead, Mike, you can chime in. I don't want to steal your thunder.
Sure, no problem. So I think a small example of your neighbors in York. The time period, they had a 4-year changeover because they were changing out their microwave system, and they built a tower as well. So they had a long schedule, and they had drawn that out so they could spread it across the budget. So that was one of the things that Cumberland County is looking to do. But they did not use the radio vendor to build the tower. They did that on their own, nor did they use them to build or to project manage the microwave. And that was all for the same reason, because of the amount of money that they had on top of those types of tasks. It was a really third-party task anyway. It does take the burden off of the county, but that burden is replaced with a huge amount of cost. When we were talking to the end users regarding the radios, we actually did give them the solutions. You know, if you wanted a radio that could work today on your system, and you wanted to know that it could work on whatever system you buy, whatever P25 system you buy in the future, then they'd have to go with a Harris radio today, and that would do both, because the Harris radio would then work on P25 in the future. And certainly if once the P25 system is developed, regardless of the vendor that is selected for the infrastructure, then they could buy or through the county or the process select whatever radios they want as well, because we work on systems all over the country that have multiple vendor radios. The state of Ohio has 6 different vendor radios that are approved to work on their Motorola's, for instance. Realm, Kenway, Johnson, Harris, Motorola, and Tate. So they have a lot of options moving forward. Right now, unfortunately, they have some really terrible radios they have to replace because they're going to need them to work on OpenSky for a period of time until they can until the P25 is built. Which, by the way, wouldn't change the timeline if you went with a vendor. Just the design, fabrication, engineering, SCP, FAA, frequency licensing, all those things that have to be done would still take that 18 months to 2 years to complete, even if we went through Motorola or Harris or Air Johnson, whomever, to do that. So I'll stop there. That's okay. Sorry, one more thing. The analogy that I can give is, you know, when we go and we select a vendor now for a 25 system, they're basically quoting you the system and the way that it's designed today. And that system now, for both Motorola and Harris as an example, they both upgrade their systems. They have a 6-month upgrade. So between now and, let's say, 5 years from now, they'll have 10 different system upgrades, which may or may not result in hardware and software changes. So it becomes very difficult for them to, for instance, give you an equipment list and to be able to tell you what the system is going to be built of when we're waiting so long to put it together. And I said to Brian and Claudia and Bob one day, this is kind of one of the best buys. They want to buy the best computer you have, and I'll be back in 3 years to pick it up. And we think that it would serve the county better to save the money on the infrastructure rather than running after a vendor, because it is so expensive. And some of the costs are on the following slide, I believe. But they also they don't allow for the county to take advantage of some of the things that we know you can take advantage of. And one example is your current microwave system utilizes radios that your county had just decommissioned because they had changed their microwave radio type. They went to an MPLS system versus a T1 radio system, which you're currently using a T1 radio system. As a result, they have 26 pops of microwaves that are sitting on garage that would work for your system and would be free, is what they shared with us. So they can't be used in their system any longer, and it would be a shame for them to go to waste. Well, each one of those links between 2 towers is the equivalent of about $150,000 to $200,000 for each hop. Going through a Motorola or Harris or someone to take advantage of those things, they don't have the ability to be that flexible like the county would be on their own.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like more and more the communications infrastructure companies are emphasizing end-to-end solutions. They want to do the entire build out. And of course, that's key to their pricing and how they, the profitability of the project. So if we essentially do part of the work ourselves, for lack of a better phrase,
Mm-hmm.
do we in any way limit the interest of potential bidders that we may need when it comes time to acquire the front end stuff?
No, I think it actually will allow you to have a true apples to apples comparison of the bids that we get back It will also allow some of the entities that Cumberland County could partner with, like the state on their statewide core system, to have that up and running and to understand the plan going forward a little bit better than they have right now, as well as the regional systems that we've met with the other jurisdictions. So we really have a good picture of where the best place is to share resources. When we met with the end users and they said coverage was their priority, we feel the same way. So the best way to increase that coverage is to get as much bang for the buck that you have. And to do that, sharing things like the core servers that are, for the statewide system, they have redundant servers. You're talking about York, they have redundant servers. Everyone has pretty much said they would love to share resources if Cumberland County would be willing to. So I think we're in pretty good shape as far as people's willingness to do that. I think there are some hurdles to get past, such as the encryption and programming and user IDs and all those things that come along with that managing your system. And they just don't have that detail yet. And then the other end of that is, when we have all of the sites selected, we will have engineers who have design systems that will show you the coverage map that you would attain if we put the towers and the sites where we're saying that you could put them. So we like to work with the county and say, where is land that we can build sites? Are there sites that can be leased? And if so, what's the best economical value for you? And then come up with a coverage map so that when you do go to these vendors, you say, we have 6 sites, we know what the coverage is, here's where you can put your antennas, here's the frequency licenses, and what you really need to do is give us a price for your equipment and install it, versus asking them to design it. And I'll tell you that when you go to these vendors and you say, I need coverage, design it however you want. You get one vendor coming back with 3 sites, one vendor coming back with 5 sites, and it gets very difficult to evaluate apples to apples at that point.
Yeah, I have to think they like it that way, but, okay, that's answered my question. Other than, now, in terms of the coverage, so we may be looking at acquiring sites, is that correct? New sites for towers?
Based on the cell sites that you have for your open sky, and talking to Brian about the technology that you have now on coverage challenges, we believe that there will need to be a new site yet, or new sites.
Okay. I was gonna ask how many.
Yeah, we're not to that point yet,
Don't
but all those little sites that they talked about will have to get replaced. Now, can we replace that with a site that's compatible with P25 has yet to be determined. So some of those could be reused, just restructured a little bit, but we have to see what their coverage footprint looks like, and if it makes sense to leave it there, or if there's a better place that would provide better for more. So we don't know if the site count's going to go up, down, but it's definitely going to change a little bit, I'll say count.
Just a very basic question for you guys, but not for me. When we use the term infrastructure, I see towers, I see sites. Is there anything else included in that term?
Typically, infrastructure means the towers and the sites that you're talking about, as well as whatever backhaul solution you have. So the big microwave dishes that connect all the towers together, or in some cases you had fiber that was connecting sites together or connecting a 911 center to the site, that would all be included. So anything other than the actual radios that are in the cars and the dispatch consoles and the radios the police officers and firefighters carry around, everything else is considered infrastructure.
Thank you.
And there's no, because of its nature, there's no right of way or anything that needs to be acquired.
No what?
No right of way.
Right away.
Hardwiring or, okay. Thank you.
If it would be,
Check, would you write that down on your parking lot list?
So, before we go on, I just had a question. If somebody could explain, the differences in the technology between P25 and the open sky, 800 megahertz, what we have right now, is the P25, just because it's a different technology or a different frequency, does that automatically provide better coverage, or are we still looking at the same issues that we had with coverage with the 800 megahertz system?
Well, I'll start off, Mike, real quick. We're going to be still in 800 megahertz, so that's just the
So we're
frequency
still
range
800
that
megahertz,
we're
we're still
using.
gonna have 800 megahertz.
Yes. We'll still be using that frequency range. You know,
So what is the difference then between Open Sky and,
it is different technology. It's,
So if you want me to jump in, Brian?
yeah, go ahead. I'll sound too technical.
So, the big difference between P25 and Open Sky is how the radios operate with the system. And the way that the digital frequency of the information comes off the towers, the ones and zeros and how they line up is different in P25 than it is in Open Sky. The way it does it in Open Sky is a proprietary system to Harris only, so if you had Open Sky, you have to buy a Harris radio. No different than Motorola SmartNet systems work, very similar situation where you have to buy Motorola radios. So P25 was developed really for two reasons: for people to interoperate and be able to buy one radio and program lots of systems into it. They could help each other out. They didn't have to run around with 5 or 6 different radios. And the other part was so that you didn't necessarily have to buy the same radios that you do with infrastructure. So you could, and we've done this in several places where we go out to bid for the infrastructure, and then we separately go out to bid for the radios. Because you don't have to have the same type of radio as you have system, or you can have multiple radios if that suits everyone best.
okay,
And sometimes it does for cost. To be honest, there are some people that don't need to have public safety grade radios, for instance. They can do a lesser expensive radio versus having all the bells and whistles and encryption and stuff. So there are a lot of options. That's really the biggest two differences. Now, as far as coverage, the Open Sky technology allows you to put these smaller sites on telephone poles or on light poles, and they can fill in some gaps in coverage. And P25 doesn't allow that. They don't have that type of coverage fill in. So what we'll need to do is take a look at the existing coverage with your actual tower that you have today, and then see if we need to increase the number of tower sites to build up that coverage to make up for the difference to the smaller sites.
Okay, so I guess, and that kind of goes to the heart of my question, is in terms of, coverage or reception, there's no difference really?
If you had everything exactly the same, so if you had 5 towers with an antenna up top and it was sending out a signal strength, and you replaced the stuff at the bottom and it was Open Sky, you swap it out for 25, you would have the same coverage, that's correct. Unfortunately, that's not your situation, because you have some towers that have that situation. Unfortunately, the smaller cell towers are not, they're not compatible, so that's really the rub.
Okay, so we're
Maybe to help
probably,
you.
that's why we're looking at the potential for additional sites. We're gonna need to have additional sites
Yes.
to
To
the
provide better
P25.
coverage, to provide the same or better, of course, we want to strive for better coverage. Because we've already heard from our public safety partners of certain areas throughout the county. And of course, in building stuff like our friends in Upper Island, are experiencing those coverage issues inside buildings. And our goal is to, while we can't probably fix everything, we would like to fix as much as we can.
So, let me follow up on that. So you can build your system based on what kind of coverage you want to have. Now, if you as an end user, simple. I want to have coverage all the time, everywhere, every building I go into.
Right.
Sometimes that's just not realistic. I mean, there are going to be places where you're not going to have coverage. But if you build your system and you say, okay, we want to have portable radio on the hip on the street, and we want to have that 95%, then, and you can do that with X number of towers, 4 towers, for example. They say, okay, we can do it with that. But now you say, okay, well, we want to have in-building coverage. So now it's taken it to another level, because every time you take that portable radio on your hip and then you're walking into a building, you're going to be knocking down that coverage. So maybe you need to add towers to your system in order to penetrate into those buildings and then give you coverage into those buildings. So part of it is also determining what is, and obviously the more towers, the bigger the price. So you've got to make the decision on, kind of on the front end and say, okay, well, this is the coverage we're going to want to have. This is, and we talk to this fact, I guess, with the end users, is to say, okay, bells and whistles are great on radios, But you gotta weigh it out. If you want an $8,000 radio, or would you rather have a $4,000 radio and have better coverage and putting more money towards the infrastructure, towards building up more towers? So, you know, it's not a definitive number of saying, looking at it and just saying, Cumberland County is going to need 3 additional tower sites. It's going to be having the conversation ahead of time to say, what is the coverage that we're trying to obtain?
I guess that's maybe where I'm a little lost, because under the old system, our goal was 95, and we achieved that, I believe, once there was some remediation taking place in a few spots. But we also required several buildings to install
BDAs.
What's that again?
BDAs,
BDA.
bidirectional antennas.
Okay, yeah. So we would have penetration there. So, and I think most of them would cost themselves, actually.
Yes.
But, okay. So we've gone to that extent to increase the coverage. How does the P25 compare vis-a-vis that 95 over 95 number? If we're getting 95 over 95, and now we're saying we're getting a better coverage, what's that look like?
Well, part of it is, what was your 95? Was it on the street?
That
Or
was
on
12 dB building.
12 dB building, okay. So, going back, so you had 12 dB, but that's basically saying you can go into a house, not necessarily a building like this, but you can go into homes and things like that and still have coverage. That's that whole 12 dB loss that they're talking about. But I guess the part of it too that you gotta play is with the open sky technology is, you know, when you build propagation maps, when they do it off the P25 system, they'll sit there and they can show you on a map and say, okay, based on the towers you have, with this equipment, these antennas, this is what your coverage is gonna be. And they're extremely accurate these days with that coverage. The thing with open sky is some of these cell sites are smaller sites. You know, they don't have the coverage. You know, they're not sitting up on 300-foot towers. You know, they're on telephone poles and things like that, and they're almost filling in gaps, you know, to do it. And that's fine, but the problem is that, you know, you put a large building between that site and the building that you're trying to get coverage in, and now something's knocking down your signal. So it's harder to do it. It's a little bit less, I don't know, complicated or complex to try and achieve it with the P25 system.
Would that be comparable? For instance, we had the problem in this in Middlesex where we had a topographical issue.
Right,
now it's
around
resolved.
Creek.
Yeah. So would this be similar? We have to do a special deployment in various areas to.
Well, like I said, so when the engineering starts and they look at it and they say, okay, we want to have, and again, say you go by the same standard of 12 dB coverage, 12 dB of loss, that gives you that in-building coverage, and they show you the propagation. That will all, the software, if you will, basically that the vendors are using and basically the engineers are using, or it takes all the topographical things that you have to deal with into consideration.
Okay, so
and it shows you.
This time it will actually, because we thought that was covered last time, but the depression that this thing, this community sat in apparently, well, what we thought was covered area, as I recall. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, but,
Yeah, we ended up building a tower.
Yeah, telephone.
Would we achieve the same results, just keeping open sky but building more and higher towers?
As far as just basing it on taking nothing into consideration except for coverage, yes, I don't care really what the technology is. You build more sites and add more sites, you get more coverage. And yes, you can achieve it.
I guess I didn't really hear an answer to my question. So if the old standard was 95 over 95, is that the same standard that the system has to meet, or is there a different standard?
Yeah, the public safety standard is 95, just like you were saying.
Okay.
So that's pretty much standard across the board. The things that change from place to place, and I would want to talk to the stakeholders as well about it as part of the data collection pool, is where do they need coverage that they don't have today, what buildings, and in areas that, you know, we have some ordinances that require BDAs in some places, and we want to see if, for instance, adding a site could save for Matt putting in, 30 EDAs, for instance, because it would be a cost savings to do that as well. So for you, for Cumberland specifically, we're actually looking at yours to say, yep, 95, but where do you need more coverage and where can you get away with less coverage as far as density, building density? If we have a huge farm field, then you don't need to have the amount of RF that's required to get into a jail, for instance. But if we're lucky enough to have a tower next to a jail, well, then you don't have to worry about putting a $50,000 fiber antenna system in there. So we want to take our time over the next couple of months if you all agree to change the scope so that we can help develop that ahead of time. And then we take that variable out of the vendor's hands altogether.
Mike, can you elaborate? I think we're losing the translation now. In addition to the 95/95, the option then to have the signal strength at say 6, 12, 20, or even like 30 dB.
Correct. Yeah, you'll be able to look at a map and see where your coverage is the best and when it starts to fade away. And that's kind of the part of designing that system now, is to make sure that you have that map to look at now to make good decisions. I hope I'm answering that right, Bob. I only heard the back end of that.
Sorry. So you could specify that 95% coverage at like 6 dB, which would just be, Kevin, right? That would just be like on the street, portable on the street outside coverage, and you wouldn't have any in-building coverage. Now we did, with Open Sky, we did 12 dB, which is portable on the hip in a light to medium construction, which is your like residential home. Now, if you get into warehouses or things like that, you're probably talking then the system needs designed to more like a 20 dB.
Okay, so that's one of the things
So-
that we're talking about. So other than just coverage, it's a lot more than just coverage. So, but in effect, what you're telling me, Bob, it also is that the old 95 wasn't really 95.
Well, it's 95% covered to that level.
To the level.
Right.
But if you don't have the penetration.
Right.
On the site.
Yeah, so you need that extra piece of what signal strength penetration you want to have for that percentage.
Okay, that tells me that.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's all.
Sorry.
And one of the things that we tried to do as part of that data collection tool is collect a list of buildings that all the jurisdictions wanted to make sure they had covered. So that when we go to the coverage guarantee to the vendors, that we have a list of the buildings, and we say, here's what you have to cover, and then they can take a look at it. Now, we're going to have a really good idea. You all will have covered maps that we obviously will not share with them when we get to that point, because we'll already have your infrastructure designed at that point.
Okay, I just have to be honest with you, I'm still a little bit confused on if we're using the same frequency, we have a certain amount of coverage now. If we went with Open Sky, which we don't know what we're doing, but the idea of the P25 is you could go any radio, right? But you're still using the same frequency. I don't quite follow how what we currently have, in terms of signal strength, would be any different, or why we need to, upgrade it anymore. I mean, that's what I'm not following. If this system essentially uses the same frequencies, are these radios less?
No, the frequency really doesn't have anything to do with it. It's just what's available to talk on.
Well, I'm talking about signal strength.
Right. So the current system, the Open Sky, Harris Open Sky system, was built to cover a portable on hip, that level of coverage inside a standard residential house.
Right, I understand that.
Okay.
I've heard that, yeah.
Okay. So when you go to anything bigger than that, then they don't work. And that's what the big complaint is from first responders is they're going into these hospitals or critical infrastructure, churches, bigger buildings, and they don't have the radio coverage.
But is it the more towers, bigger towers?
That's what I'm
that'll
getting
give
to.
us better coverage? Or is it the P25 as compared to the Open Sky that gives us better coverage in these other kinds of buildings?
There's a little bit of both. If you add more towers to your engine system, you will get better coverage for sure. But the P25 radios compared to 10% better as far as receiving your signal strength. You know, if you're at, I know we're just talking numbers, but down to net 104, you start to see the open sky radios losing the transmission. But we see the 25 radios getting down to that negative 112, 115. So they're about 10% better as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so if this was a business school class and we were trying to actually precisely define what the benefit here is, because it's a big investment, we would say, regardless of what P25 versus open sky, we're gonna have to upgrade our infrastructure. Okay, so that cost would be constant for, the only two things I'm hearing, and I'm not saying they're not important, that would say go for P25 is what was just said about the quality of the radios, having better reception, and user choice to use any radio on the system rather than to be locked into one. Those two.
Well, then you take out the proprietary piece. If you go P25.
Yeah, so anybody can use any radio they want, but it's,
Correct.
okay, so I mean,
And it has the ability to talk to the other counties.
So we would no longer have that those patching that we're referring.
There would still be some patching depending on, that gets a little confusing, but
Okay.
they would be able to have talk groups directly in their radios to switch directly.
I guess what I'm getting at is anytime we talk about patching, maybe it's just, an old bias of mine, it just sounds like jury rigging and, like, is it gonna work, is it not gonna work? I'm vastly oversimplifying, I'm sure. But anytime we can narrow the number of points of potential failure, that's an improvement. So I guess that's what I'm getting at, is are we going to be able to lessen those links, as it were?
It helps all that tremendously.
all right, so just to be perfectly clear, if at the end of this, the only thing we come out of it is that users can use any radio that they want on the system, I would consider this an absolutely complete waste of money. Okay?
Right.
There has to be tangible, measurable performance coverage enhancements, improvements over what we have now to warrant spending this much money. I'm almost there, but, I ain't quite there.
Let me pick up on that if I could, because that's why I asked about the internal, what you call them, DV antenna?
I'm sorry, BDA, bidirectional antennas.
Bidirectional antennas, okay. Because, and this comes down to a cost issue. I mean, there's coverage on the map, and then there's coverage in terms of are you really reaching the pinpoint locations, are you penetrating those structures? So, because of the past inability under open sky to penetrate those structures, Brian, I think you confirmed this, several of the, for instance, the warehouses, they paid their own way to have the bidirectional put in, so to overcome that problem. And that strikes me as fair, quite frankly. If they want to build that structure and they're, instead of offloading that responsibility for us to come up with a stronger, yeah, exactly, the cost of doing business. So to me, that's eminently fair that they're doing that. It almost sounds to me, and correct me please if I'm wrong, it almost sounds as if we are now accepting back the responsibility for putting in a bigger, badder system so that they don't have to do that. Which concerns me, because to me that's a legitimate cost sharing arrangement. So tell me where I'm wrong on this.
Basically, there's not a lot of those systems in place today.
Were we not told that a lot of the municipalities were putting ordinances in place?
I know of two right now.
Two in the entire county?
Yes.
Okay.
I know of two for sure. I can't speak for all the others, but I know for sure there's Upper Allen and Hampton Township.
Okay.
And Upper Allen is, they put one in place and made it retroactive to all buildings.
Retroactive.
Yeah, well, I don't know. What's that?
They can do that with codes?
I guess so.
Okay.
It's an ordinance.
We'll find out.
Let me ask one question this way. Can we get a P25 system using the current infrastructure?
Yes,
You can get it and use the towers that you currently have today. You put P25 on there, but because your coverage today requires those cell sites to match that coverage, and they can't be used at P25, then something would, you'd have to add something in to replace that. So you could put P25 on your towers today.
So you still gotta add towers, is what you're saying?
Well, once you take a look at the coverage, we'll know better about how much that's big, but yes, we believe that's the case.
And Jim, for example, for Middlesex, we put that telephone pole on Deer Lane and put an antenna on top of it. That's the type of structure or tower site that will not work with P25. Because it's basically just a box about that big hanging on the telephone pole with all the radio equipment in it, the antenna on the top. Where P25 requires racks of equipment, so now you have to put in a small, shelter that's, HVAC controlled and all that stuff.
One of the things that you need to do, and something we talked about previously, is that we had discussions with regional discussions, and one of the things that was discussed was the options for infrastructure sharing, okay? Which is something, and you can't overlook, and when you're looking for another point, that's a big point, because you have your neighboring jurisdiction, you have York County to your south right now, their current system, are the end users in Cumberland County, when we came out to the meetings, they let us know pretty clearly that the York County end users are coming well up into Cumberland County using their York County radios, talking just fine, when Cumberland County's struggling in some of those areas. Now, that's not saying that, we're not comparing apples to apples, that, okay, it's apples to oranges, but there's the ability to share their infrastructure. So you would kind of close that door, if you will, if you stay with Open Sky. And it's not just York County. The state is currently in the process of converting to a P25 system, so there's the potential of sharing their sites. So yes, please. So you're talking about a lot of additional sites.
They're already sharing some of our sites, aren't they, state police?
Well, the state, not state police specifically, it's many state agencies. But yes, we co-locate, the state is co-located several of our sites, yes.
So you're basically
we're already kind of sharing resources today.
So if we want to really address this bugaboo of interoperability, the P25 is really
Yes.
pretty necessary.
And the other thing we can't forget too is we're doing this preemptively so that we know that Open Sky is probably going to go away someday. So we're trying to be proactive and not be forced to the 11th hour.
So, going back to business school class, when you come into the MAB, because, I've been with this thing from the beginning, and you almost lost me about 30 minutes ago. Okay, I almost became the guy who stands on the table and says, we're being led by the nose by a bunch of radio vendors who already have too much of our money. If you came that close with me, you need to come into this thing with the MAB with a clear, concise value proposition of why you thought that we're doing this, okay? And you finally hit on some things that actually are both tangible, measurable, and important to our users, okay? The fact that I can use a different radio if I want to is BS, okay? I bet it's really important for some people. Are we gonna invest 20 some odd million in a project just to give people more choice in a society that already has way too much choice about stuff? Probably not. So what I would suggest, and again, the three things I've heard is you need coverage outside of county, you get radios with better reception, you're gonna build an infrastructure which will generally give you more coverage in places that we don't have. That has to be front and center in this. Because if you almost lost me on this, I don't know how we're gonna persuade other people who either, who aren't so favorable in the plan. So that's just a suggestion.
Yeah, I'd say this, and hopefully you don't take this as a hostile approach, but the more we're trying to understand, I think the
Yes.
more we're mirroring exactly what types of messages you need to hone to address the needs of our local partners as well. In fact, Brian, if possible, I'd say whenever we're going to MAB, we should probably check and see who's going to be in attendance, and any customization you can do to address specific issues that we've encountered in those municipalities would probably add to the persuasiveness factor.
Yeah, so like if you get 3 municipalities that are saying, we each have a problem with these 3 things, okay? And you do a before and an after, and show how this is gonna be better than what you want. Now, what percentage of it is due to the fact that we're building more and higher towers versus P25? in the end, it's important, but for these purposes, we need to show that there's a tangible benefit from doing it.
Well, and I'll just make another observation here. I mean, the reason we are having this discussion, if I recall correctly, is because we were told that our radios or the radio system is nearing end of life, right?
No, we were not told that.
Okay, so why are we doing this?
The radios are. Some of the
The
radios.
end user radios are nearing end of life. But it was more so because, we don't know the longevity and the vendor's not gonna let you know that yet because they still wanna keep you as a customer. What we're trying to do is be proactive and look down the road, and look at those interoperability pieces that, we struggle with today because of the proprietary technology that we're using.
Well, okay.
And the state is-
And that is, and we are hamstrung by the fact that we have, all this proprietary stuff. But again, if you look in here, and I was reading the blue notes here, it talks about this will last for 15 years. I don't think this county's gonna spend $20 million every 15 years on a new radio system. So, what I'm saying is, or what I'm asking, and I think Larry is right in his points, we better be able to explain why it is we need to do this. If you're saying that it's not end of life, then I have a million other questions.
We're gonna be on the front line having to justify this.
Oh, absolutely. We need to provide you with
So
that.
is Harrison building a new generation of open sky phone radios?
Not to our knowledge. I mean, they'll continue to produce radios that work on the open sky system, but as far as the infrastructure goes, we haven't been told of any other technology or system that's gonna come out in lieu of open sky other than the P25.
Is there any concern, I mean, if we're building out the infrastructure first and essentially deferring the handset choice, is there any chance that the technology outstrips our decision that we're gonna make it in 2 years, or is it
I
2 years?
confidently think, no, you're not.
Okay.
I think this P25 standard is something
But that's
that's
gonna-
here and it's snowballing, if anything. When the standard first came on the scene, if you will, and things, systems started getting put in, like York County system,
Yeah.
back in 2008, they were spread out and they're few and far between, but now everybody's going that way and there's reaping the benefits of the interoperability part of it and, being able to create regional systems, where multiple counties are actually sharing the same core, which takes patching and all that stuff, takes it out of it, and the end users truly have better coverage, the radios are working better, so I don't see this is something that's here.
We're just,
for a long time.
I've been around here long enough that, everything's the newest. The newest thing is always the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's going to be, the big thing. And then until the next big thing comes along. So we use our skepticism
It
to
used to
some
be
degree.
10, 20 years down the road, now it's 5 years down the road.
And I understand that the technology is changing very rapidly, and the standards, the federal government's changed the standards. Now, the feds are talking about selling off more spectrum. Does that have any impact on where these standards might move, or?
I'm not sure.
There are
I'm not actually-
there are a number of 700 megahertz and 800 megahertz counts that are in the area. And then one of the reasons we met with the other jurisdictions that surround Cumberland County, you may be able to actually share some of their coverage. If you're partnering with them, the towers that feed into your county could actually negate the need for you to have a tower there. So we're going to take the time to make sure that we look at all of those options, see what benefits Cumberland County the best. And maybe that the partner that is the best decision is the one that gives you the most coverage into your county, and all of a sudden, now you don't have to put 2 towers in that location anymore.
Yeah, I understand. We get it, that there's no guarantee toward future-proofing, but we're going to strive for as much future-proofing as we can possibly
Exactly.
get, so that the folks who follow us, aren't pointing fingers at us, that we run the game of the wrong deal, frankly, so.
And I can build on Brian's point real quick. While Harris has not come out and said that Open Sky is no longer going to be built, they have said that they're not putting Open Sky into any of their new radios that they are building.
Okay.
So, for what
I'm just, again, I just want to go back on reading. An average of 15 to 20 years is what being seen as an industry standard that equipment located at the tower sites and public safety building would need refreshed at that point. I don't know what refreshed means, but then it goes on to say, our hope is that since P25 is the national, our hope is that since P25 is the national accepted radio standard today, it will remain that way and make all such upgrades less traumatic on both the end users and the county. Well, I'd like to be operating on something a little more than hope, okay? And again, I remember we talked the 800 megahertz system when I was a township commissioner went in. And this was going to provide, we're going to have great interoperability and, all these issues were going to be addressed then. And then I do remember that we had some of our firefighters were carrying a couple different radios on them because they couldn't talk to Perry County or they couldn't talk to other places.
We went through a major rebanding
Yeah.
effort, which was, not foreseen. And I know not everything can be foreseen. And, 15 years these days is an eternity. That it's, the only thing that doesn't change is that everything keeps changing. So, we're not expecting anybody to have a crystal ball on that, so, but,
No, but we are talking about a lot of money. And
yes, a lot of.
and that's
wanna
what
make a
I'm.
good investment.
So, just,
And by the way, the industry standard for replacing that equipment is something that's given out by the Motorola's and Harris's and Neil Johnson. And we can also point to a lot of other areas that built systems just like you did and operated on for 30 years. Both Motorola and Harris systems. The state of Delaware working with them right now. They've had a Motorola system for a very long time, and they haven't had to replace their system to continue to use it. And Ocean City, Maryland, same thing. They had a Harris system for 30 years and did not have to replace that system to use it. So the 10 to 20 years or 10 to 15 years that they talk about are manufacturer recommendations. They're not meaning that they won't be able to use them.
so between now and MAB, we need to see a slide or two on a clearly stated value proposition for this thing that somehow makes it clear that some of this comes from enhancing our infrastructure and what specifically comes from switching over to P25.
Yeah, Brian, one thing too, I think this is good. One of the key questions in it is what is the status of the current system and how urgent is the need to convert to P25? I look at this map and I see everybody surrounding us, and then some either has it or is converting to. I'm assuming the ones that are converting to, it's like Huntington, Fulham, Lebanon, Perry, do they have open sky today?
No.
There's still-
The only open sky customers in Pennsylvania are the state and Cumberland County.
Are they still okay? Very good.
Perry County, as of today, yes, they are converting to a P25 system in a different frequency than we use.
What's going to happen to all those carrier bridges?
I don't know. Might be able to retire.
Peter's going to get on this, you watch.
Any final comments or questions? I have another meeting.
The next slide, I mean, it's up, we can buzz through things. Mike just gave an example.
We did back up real quick. Just going back to what we were talking about, so the kind of the point was of the fact of building the infrastructure yourself as opposed to doing the RFP, getting a vendor and having the vendor do it. The time frame, as Mike said, is the same. We're looking at a couple of years in order to do that. But the cost savings by doing it yourself is pretty substantial. The vendors, regardless of who they are, they're typically going to take the third-party vendors. So those tower builders and whatnot that they're using, they're going to mark them up 25 to 34%, more so to 34%. So it doesn't matter who that is, they're going to be marking that up. They're also going to have to charge you for project management and engineering resources at $1,500 a day for each one of those type of resources. All right, so obviously you can save a lot of money by taking care of and doing this, building this infrastructure out yourself. And this just kind of gives you an example, now we're not saying that, nobody's coming in and saying you're gonna need 3 new sites and you need to replace 2 of your towers, you know. We're just giving this as an example. If you did add 3 sites and replace 2 of your sites, okay? You're looking at greenfield sites, or the cost is gonna be $300,000 to $500,000. Replacement towers, $250,000. Monthly project management and engineering is $15,000 to $25,000. So by doing these things, yourself, you got an approximate cost savings based on the 3 sites and 2 towers replaced of $1,058,000. So it's a pretty substantial cost savings by going this route and doing these things. And again, what we're doing is we're building it. Again, it'd be designed saying this is what you want, this is the coverage we want, it's in place, and then when they go to the vendors and we run for RFP to the vendors, it's very specific. We have told you, this is what we want, and now you are going to tell us what it's going to cost us to get the equipment to put in the hands of the users and get this all put together. And that's simplifying it.
And that, again, that was a key ask for this. I know we got down a different road, but you got my attention when you got into 7 figures.
Okay, so in closing, really, after learning about the delays and the potential cost savings, what we're asking you all to consider is allowing us to modify the timeline of the project so that we can do the site plan with all our comments considered, we talked about today, as well as at least a conceptual approval to change the scope of work for SSC, because currently the scope of work was not outlined building that site plan. And then beyond that would be the next step is to, if we agree with that, then we need to implement that. That's a different contract. So that's kind of our takeaway for today.
I just have a question on the last bullet point about seeing where the other projects are. Does that change our range of options in some way?
It'll make them clearer, because right now, the state's just now in the beginning stages, and other counties are in the beginning stages. Some counties are actually in it far enough, they're looking at having to do some modifications to their system. So by doing the site plan gives us that 2-year window for things to mature a little more, and that'll give us a better insight as to options for interoperability sharing.
Okay. But that was the question I had, is that if we're going to make determinations regarding sites, and we're potentially going to be dependent on decisions of other counties about sites as well. We're not racing out ahead of these other people's decisions, are we?
Now, as far as sites, I don't think we're out ahead of anything. It's more so the technology of P25 getting that more implemented into the state and some counties.
Okay, that's good, thank you.
And that's really
And one more thing to add, just so you know, Bob and Claudia and Brian and all staff have done a fantastic job working through this process. It's not easy. They've been having to answer a lot of difficult questions, especially when you involve the end users early. We prefer to do that. It's better to be transparent, but it certainly is not that challenging. They've done a great job. So just to mention that.
That's good to hear, thank you.
And one last quick thing, we gave a part to you, a piece of paper that has end user rating of cost sharing on it. So this just gives you a history of what we did with the current radio system. And then at the bottom has some examples of those field trips we took to our public safety partners and their lessons learned. A few examples of how they procured end user radios, not so much the infrastructure as end user radios.
That's really interesting. That's going to get a lot of food for thought, so I really appreciate
Well,
that.
I happen to do this because what do those people know around?
Okay.
Yeah, so we may behoove us, because I know we're out of time. But before the MAB meeting, maybe have a smaller session. We'll talk about this, because they're gonna ask you, I love the story about when Commissioner Herzog was on the other side of the table. He came in and demanded more the county was going to pay. Now that he's on this side of the table, and he has to answer the question.
And that was one of the downfalls of the old system, is it was not clarified. And it became apparent to the municipalities. I was around then too, I'm not as old as he is, but I remember that.
He's not.
But there were a lot of questions that were left hanging out there as to what was going to be our municipal obligation to participate in this, and was there any assistance for it? And those answers came very late in the process, and that did not reflect the whole county.
And we don't necessarily have to have an answer,
Yeah.
but we should be able to speak in from an informed perspective.
That's
So what you're asking of us today is essentially to move in the direction of having the county handle the build-out of the infrastructure. Is that right?
Yes.
That's number one. And
Create the site plan, which is a paper document, not actually physically doing it. That's what we're asking you to change their scope of work to. And then beyond that, then we have to discuss the implementation
And
process.
how are the determinations made with respect to, how many sites we need and,
We actually have a propagation tool that allows us to move sites around your county and then the antennas up and down, and the tower sites that change the type of antenna, and then evaluate the coverage, and then give you a clear picture of what your coverage would be if you build out that system. So that would be our plan, to sit down and see what land is available. If we look at the space you have now, the tower space you have now, and say that it provides coverage in, areas 1 through 5, but 6, 7, and 8 are where we need more coverage, then we would look for a county-owned land where a tower there that's due lease or something like that. And that'll be a work in progress for the next month and a half or so, we'll put this together.
So we will see shortly a modification
Yes,
from the commissioners to
that's-
the contract.
Right, so who actually serves as the project manager and engineer, this monthly project manager and engineer? And who actually builds or provides the additional infrastructure? Who does that?
That would be.
We're
the
doing
next
it on
step.
our own, right? So I assume that means you and Bob are gonna be out there
Yes.
Well,
putting it up.
yeah.
I mean, that's what I heard, we're gonna do it on our own.
Claudia's going to do it, she's much better.
With Claudia?
Yeah.
Claudia?
She owns it, and Brian and I welded.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
All right, yeah, we-
No, but that'll be a consultant, once we get to the site plan development, once we get to the implementation, it will be the consultant to oversee and how, because there's going to be pieces and parts of that that's going to be bid, not all of that's going to be on state contract. So it's going to be a mixture of things that, we'll need that professional service to help.
But what we heard today, we assume this is gonna save us money, right?
Yes.
Over $1 million.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Mike, thank you for calling in.
No problem, thanks very much, sorry again, I can't be there.
So that,
Thanks, Eva.
Yeah. We have an infrastructure problem on the roads too.
It really is these
I can't
tiles.
fix that.
It is these tiles. They have these imaginary tiles. They lay out. It's explain it. These tiles, that's how they create these areas, do testing, it's lay out.
I want to go back to CB radio.
CB. Guys,
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you. That wasn't 2000 when we purchased the 60,000. That was only 17 years.
Seems like yesterday.
Yeah, it does.
Next, we have a discussion and approval of resolution 2017-16. Any questions or comments? Hold on, Nikki. Oh, you're welcome to comment.
I think just to place on the record that, we're very concerned about the proposed budget for the upcoming year for capital area transit. And, it looks excessive. It raises lots of questions as to what we're paying McDonald Transit Associates for when they're talking about, hiring at least 7 new management staff. The capital area transit hired this outside consultant to come in and manage CAP. And yet, capital, the consultant is suggesting we need to hire all these managers. So my question is, what are the current managers doing and planners doing at Capillary Transit? And why do we need all these additional people? But I think that, you know, Mike Clapsaddle, our treasurer at Capillary Transit Board, you know, pretty much has detailed what seems to me to be a bloated spending proposal that doesn't move us in the direction at all toward transit agency regionalization. And the budget talks about cutting services at the same time they're hiring all these new people for Capillary Transit. So, you know, where's the benefit to the public in this budget? That's what I want to know. So this resolution essentially, you know, urges all the members of the CAT board to reject this proposed budget that I understand is going to be, what, unveiled the same day they're going to act on it? I mean, that's what it sounds like to me, on Thursday. What kind of public input is provided into this budget, if any? And so we're going to have more to say about it, but you know, it's not moving in the direction of transit agency administrative consolidation. It's not moving in the direction of greater efficiency. It's not moving in the direction of service improvement. In fact, it's talking about cutting service. So I'm appalled. You know, CAT just doesn't seem to get it. And this is totally irresponsible. You know, this proposal that we understand CAT is going to be voting on, what, tomorrow?
Yes, midday.
Gary, do you have any comments?
I just think about this, I mean, we got briefed on this yesterday, and we're going to vote on it tomorrow. It raises more questions than answers. There's totally insufficient opportunity to scrutinize this and to engage in any type of real discussion on the long-range vision here for regional transit. So I think this has very strong unanimous support of this board from what I can tell. Some people just don't get it. I mean, we've had this ongoing discussion, and we've gone from bad to worse with this. You just wonder what people are thinking. So we need to send a strong message. I hope this is the start of sending a stronger message.
Okay, very good.
If it's
Larry,
in
anything?
order, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2017-16 of the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further comments or questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And is there any other business to be brought from the finance folks, finance board? Nothing, okay, so there's a motion for adjournment. For adjournment, thank you.